Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first community meeting, our first public community meeting for Tanzu Community Edition. I'm sure all of you are aware Tanzu Community Edition launched a couple of days ago on October 4th, and we're excited to bring to you these weekly meetings that we will have. How it's going to work is that we have meetings currently on the first and third Wednesdays, and then we have our office hours on the second and fourth Wednesdays. And what'll happen is for the community meetings, we have more of an agenda planned out for you, more of us giving you updates on what's happening with the project and with development, and also any announcement that needs to happen, any announcements that need to happen. And then on the office hours, it'll be a much more open forum for you to bring your questions or issues or pull requests that you'd like to have looked at in a more synchronous fashion. That said, I have for us a HackMD link that we're going to be using for the meetings. So for those of you that are here, please feel free to add your name and your company to this document. And you'll see the agenda that we have here for today. So we're starting off with the welcome. And then we're going to talk a bit about how you can find us online, like where the community lives. So we've got the Google group that's here for our announcements and our calendar management. I have recently been informed that the calendar management piece is not working very well. So we're going to be troubleshooting that and getting those updates out to you so that we'll have more folks show up because they know the meeting is happening at this time. And then if you haven't already, we have a discussion thread already on GitHub. So if you want to introduce yourself in this introduction thread so that we can get to know you a little bit better and what you're looking for. The intent is that this community is for you, that we're speaking to your needs and making sure that you feel as much a part of it as everyone else. And to that end, we'd love to get to know you. So please drop a little intro in that thread for us. And then we have the Slack channel for ongoing conversations. If you're not already aware that the Slack channel exists, there's a link here for you in the HackMD page. With that, let's go into a greeting from the maintainers and an introduction to what Tanzu Community Edition is. Josh, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Am I just introducing myself, Nigel, or also introducing what Tanzu Community Edition is?
Yeah, let's do both.
Okay, great. Hey, everybody. My name is Josh. I am one of the maintainers and kind of technical leads, if you will, on Tanzu Community Edition. I work for VMware. I've been doing Kubernetes stuff for a really long time. I worked at a company called CoreOS for a couple of years. We made a project called etcd and a couple other low-level Kubernetes components. Moved on to a company called Heptio that Joe Beta and Craig McLucky founded. And now we find ourselves at VMware. We're so psyched to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Aside from my introduction, if you have not checked out Tanzu Community Edition, the kind of high-level overview that I would say is that it's going to provide us with a means of doing really robust declarative cluster management. So think about, if any of you are familiar with Cluster API, the idea of spinning up a management cluster and then being able to spawn off one to very, very many workload clusters. And then having the capability, once we get those clusters instantiated, to bring higher level functionality on top of it. So this is functionality like certificate provisioning or log forwarding and so on. And the whole thing that we're really excited about with, I think, TCE is this idea that with an ecosystem and a community of users, we can grow these packages and higher order functionality on top of our clusters to provide like just super, super robust ways to spin up clusters at scale. So thanks so much for joining us. And again, I'm Josh. Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Would any of the other maintainers like to introduce themselves?
Sure, I can go. My name's John. I also came to VMware through Pivotal and worked there on Cloud Foundry. My area of expertise has been in the standalone cluster area of the code base. Yeah, good to see everyone.
Thanks, John. Who else would like to go?
I can go next. Actually, this is a question. Is my audio working?
That is no, it is not.
It is not.
I could jump in the meantime.
Thank you, Sean.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean McGinnis. I also work for VMware. Been involved in storage and other infrastructure software for a very long time. Part of the TCE team here, and just ready to help get anyone connected or look at resources or find the right information you need to use TCE. So feel free to ping me on Slack or let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Sean. Who'd like to go next?
Hey, I can jump in. Hi, I'm Kay. I'm working on the documentation for TCE, so looking forward to working with you all. My focus is all about doc and all about making the doc as user-friendly as possible. So looking forward to working with you and hearing from you all.
Thanks, Kay. Who's next?
I'll go.
Yes.
I'm Nick Seemiller. I also joined VMware through the Pivotal acquisition. And after my first experience of deploying an application in Kubernetes, I just wanted to get more involved. And I thought that joining this team would be a great way to do it. So here I am, and I've been focusing on packaging.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone else?
Yep, I guess I'll go. My name's David Von Thenen. Yeah, I've been primarily my focus has been kind of like not being focused. It's all over the place. I've been doing some work with like John and standalone clusters, some of the release stuff with automation and stuff like that. So yeah, no, super happy to be part of the community, and yeah, looking forward to making the project even better.
Thank you, David. Nolan, you ready to give another shot? Yeah, we can't hear anything. Sorry, bud. Anyone else?
Is that better?
It is actually.
Awesome. Glad I have 3 mics on this machine. I'm Nolan Brubaker. I came to VMware through Heptio as well, like Josh. I the Valero project, which is our Kubernetes utility, and I'm now on Tanzu Community Edition working on Sonabuoy.
Thank you, Nolan. Would anyone else like to go?
This is Dinesh. Maybe I'll go next. So I'm part of IBM, and I have wrote IBM/Kyndryl. Not sure how many of you know, but one of the unit in IBM is spinning out as a new company and becoming Kyndryl. So I'm still part of one of it. I don't, and from Tanzu perspective, actually, I'm working since a year and worked on different Tanzu Kubernetes grid versions. My role here is basically bringing out the Tanzu portfolio capability within IBM and providing services to our client. One of the key things that I'm expecting by participating with this is getting to know some of those early features that we'll expect in the commercial version of, let's say, TKG or the Tanzu packages, and that will help me to plan out the things, which I can expect that it will come, and also participate and help in testing up some of these products.
Awesome. Thank you, Dinesh. We have enough time, but we are looking for, we were introducing the maintainers. It's all good if audience members also would like to introduce themselves. I think all of the maintainers have gone. There are a couple of other people who are very important to the project. Don't know if they want to introduce themselves. Amanda, Jace.
I could do a quick intro. So I'm Jace Singer-Dumars, and I'm relatively new to VMware. I just joined a month ago, so I'm still figuring everything out, but probably many of you know me from Kubernetes. I'm a maintainer. I've been in SIG leadership and doing lots of things since pre 1.0. So I'm pretty excited to be here with all these wonderful, talented folks building the best Kubernetes distro that's ever been, in my humble opinion. So awesome. It's really great to meet everybody, and I can't wait to work with you all. This is super exciting.
Thank you. Hi, Amanda. We can't hear you. Okay, we will press on. Thanks all the maintainers for introducing themselves and for some of the other folks. Clint, would you like to introduce yourself or you good?
Sure. Hey, folks. Clint Kitson. Been at VMware for the last 4 to 5 years, and been in the cloud native ecosystem from a few years prior to that, focusing heavily on storage. But behind the scenes, I've been helping lead our teams that have been building all these great Kubernetes integrations and helping support the Kubernetes contributors. So I'm a huge champion and supporter of everybody here on the call, and really excited to be able to bring all this great technology that we've been working on for a long time to the community.
Awesome. Thank you, Clint. And we'll wait a beat now. If there's anyone else that would like to introduce themselves, we'd love to meet you. And also, if you don't want to talk, that's totally fine. Please feel free to introduce yourselves as well on that discussion post in the GitHub discussions, the intro post on GitHub discussions. Words.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Amanda. I've been leading the engineering and engagement efforts here for Tanzu Community Edition. I am so excited that we are now public after about a year and a half of working on this. So I am stoked. I am also a little tired. So everybody here, I'm so excited to have a community on this and to work out on the open in this. This is going to be cool. And it's going to be really amazing to see all the users come together here to create something good for us all. Thank you.
Awesome. Would anyone else like to go before we move on? And for everyone who's here, if you haven't yet, please check out the HackMD page and add your name and your company, if you don't mind, where you're coming from to this meeting. All right. Well, I will take that to mean that everyone who has wanted to go has gone. So thank you so much for all the introductions. We have a couple of more action items or a couple of more items here on our agenda. For one, we have the meeting time move is imminent. So what I realized today, as I was sending out, reminding folks that we have the meeting today, is that for those of you who are unaware, the Tanzu Community Edition depends a lot on Cluster API, and Cluster API has its own meetings at this very time. And so there's going to be a lot of overlap in folks that want to be at both of those meetings. And so we're going to move ours, and I will be figuring out what time that is. And hopefully when we make the move, there will be significantly fewer calendar mishaps, and we'll get everyone on the correct invite, and we'll get all of the folks who want to be here. So just wanted to let you know that while I thought this was going to be the time, and it's written in a lot of places, we will be moving it to make room for folks to be able to attend the Cluster API meetings. So were there any other items? I know, Josh, you had mentioned that there might be some things that you wanted to talk about before we sign off.
Were you talking about the triage stuff?
Yes. Oh, unless we were moving that over to the, like, we do have time if we want.
I was thinking office hours might be good. I assumed we were doing it then, so I'm not really prepped, to be honest.
Okay.
But
okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So with the remaining time left, are there any questions that folks have for us while we're all here? Do we want to do a tour of the repository? Yeah, a tour of the repo. Jonas is giving us a thumbs up there. Somebody's in the hot seat. I have a suspicion of who it is.
I would love to tour our super well organized repository.
Thank you, Josh. It'll be helpful as well for folks to know, like where you keep the roadmaps, where all the information is.
Can do. And I'm being slightly sarcastic. We we're not terribly unorganized, but we could use a little bit of improvement. So I'm sure most people on this call have already been to the repository. It's on GitHub. Someone can put the link in, VMware Tanzu Community Edition. And inside of the repository, one of the things that you'll find probably helpful if you're doing any contributions is if you go down to the bottom of our README, we have a repository layout section that talks about what the folders are and what is contained inside of them. So Tanzu Community Edition as a repo kind of has two, well, actually, I guess it has a couple, but two main things from a code perspective, I guess. One of those are the packages that we deploy on top of clusters. So think cert manager, think Multis, think Entrea. And then there are the CLI plugins that I think many of you have seen before just by running, let's see if I've got my thing up here, the Tanzu command. So what will be a little bit confusing about this tour, and I'll try to keep it succinct, is that when it comes to Tanzu plugins, some of these come from our foundation, if you will, Tanzu framework, which is a slightly different repo. Maybe I can talk a bit about that if we have time. But some of the plugins are unique to Tanzu Community Edition. So if you haven't seen this, what's interesting about our architecture is it feels like you have a singular CLI here, but in actuality, these are independent binaries that are providing functionality, and it's all piping through this Tanzu command. So with that context in place, let's go back to the repo real quick here. Somehow I lost it. So with that context in place, the plugins that I was just describing with the CLI, you're going to find all of these inside of CLI CMD and then inside of plugin. So these are the three Tanzu CLI plugins that are unique to Tanzu Community Edition. And the one thing for contributors to know about is that for better or for worse, we've decided that we wanted different Go module dependencies and to be able to keep these plugins and their source code really clean and separate. So these plugins are root Go projects in and of themselves. What I mean by that is if you enter the standalone cluster directory, you're going to find it has its own dedicated Go mod, Go sum, and so on. So this is the entire code base for standalone cluster creation, which some of you heard or met John McBride earlier. He has been one of the main maintainers of that. Same goes for conformance and diagnostics. So for our Go programmers in the room, the key thing to know is that you will not find a Go mod at the root of this repo. You can think of this repo as a repository that contains multiple Go projects inside of it. Another way to think about this, maybe put more cleanly, is if I was doing plugin development on one of these or improving it, in my IDE, this folder, if I was working on standalone cluster, would be my root directory that I'd start programming against if I was using anything from Vim to VS Code to IntelliJ. All right, so those are our plugins, our binaries that give us functionality. The second piece are the packages that we deploy on top of clusters. In fact, if I can find the command real quick, package list, let's see if we can get them. I don't even know if I have a cluster running, but maybe I do. Okay, cool. So this is coming off of a cluster. When you deploy Tanzu Community Edition clusters and install our repo, you'll see a bunch of functionality that you can deploy. Now, these packages are all contained, or I should say the package source configuration is all contained in add-ons, packages, and you'll find the package source configuration for every single one of our packages. So let's say that you're deploying Contour and you're like, I wonder how the TCE group and maintainers are working on the Contour package and configuring it. You can go into Contour, you can choose the version that you're looking at, and then inside of the bundle directory, you'll see some information about the configuration for it. So we have these things called overlays. We have the upstream manifests. We have values that we apply. This is all using a bunch of tools from a project called Carvel. And yeah, you'll find all the configuration bundles inside of that add-ons packages directory. All right, so aside from that, we've got a couple other directories that I will mention. Docs is one of our probably most important directories. Inside of Docs and Site, if you're familiar with Hugo, this is where the entire Hugo website lives. So if I were to go into my local machine and do TCE, if I went into Docs Hugo, Docs Site, at this root directory, you can make modifications to the website, and you can also run Hugo server from here. And this will actually pop up if I go to it real quick, the website locally. So if you do want to enhance documentation, and we do need help, so please, we're more than happy to take documentation contributions. Extremely helpful for us. You can make those changes. And like I said, you can go to our docs site folder and run Hugo server and get a local preview of all these different pieces. So hopefully that'll be a little bit helpful. And then what are the other directories I should just call out real quick? Hack and test. Hack, I don't even want to describe it because as you could probably imagine from the folder name, it just has a lot of random stuff in it. But our test directory is what our awesome release engineering team and other teams use to set up automation for end-to-end testing, lower level testing, all that good stuff. So there's a lot of our test automation and things in the test repo. And then maybe the last thing I'll say, and then Nigel, let me know if there's anything else I should cover. If you haven't already gone to the issues page, when you're ready to file an issue, we do have some templates. We super appreciate usage of these templates because it automatically labels stuff and lets us triage and filter as we need to. And if you're at all interested in how we go about triaging issues, like you can see a bunch that need triage right here, we've got a pinned issue up here that describes what our labels mean, how we think about and triage and prioritize things. This is more of like an internal detail, but you're super welcome to read about it if it interests you. And then last but not least, you'll also find our engineering roadmap inside of pinned issues here. And the engineering roadmap is basically a collection for each one of our milestones of what we're working on. So when y'all come to community meetings and you're like, I really need this one feature really bad, and we talk about it, if we put it in a milestone, it's going to get allocated into one of our releases, which means we're going to try to include it. So if you're interested, for example, y'all have used V090, whether you knew it or not. And if you're interested for our next release, you can get details on when we're targeting that release date, assuming all things go well. And you can get an idea for what new features, bugs, enhancements to existing features, and documentation changes we have slated for V010. And like all open source projects, these are always a moving target, but this will usually give you a really good, concise way to see, hey, in the next release, what can I expect out of the TCE team? Nigel, is that good coverage? Is there anything else that you can think of?
That is great coverage.
Awesome.
If you do want to mention framework, we do have a couple of minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah, please go ahead.
One quick thing. Could I mention roadmap.md, that the looser, longer term, high level roadmap is just maintained at the top level of the project?
Absolutely. So like Roger said, in Community Edition roadmap.md, there is in Tanzu Community Edition, like a lot of projects, product management and engineering. Roger and team own the roadmap.md. So instead of saying, what are the very specific code changes that are going to happen for 0.10, but you're more so thinking, what's like the trajectory of the TCE project? This would be a great resource to go and get that higher level, longer term view of what we're thinking about and where we're headed. Is that a good summary, Roger? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, which is that we normally maintain those as 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and future. You'll notice the future is missing, and that's because over some community meetings in the near future, like probably about a month out, we're going to start discussing those high-level things and talk about prioritizing those. So the future bucket is largely up to you as well as us.
Sounds great. Thanks, Roger. And on the note of Tanzu framework, I will give just like a quick 2-minute overview. So, you know what, let's just look at the CLI again, because I think that kind of tells the story really well. There's a lot of really core functionality that is just, the nucleus, if you will, of Tanzu Community Edition. And that is largely found in something called Tanzu Framework. So architecturally, without getting too much into it, Tanzu Framework is an enabler of us to build a distribution, if you will. It kind of gives us the pieces we need. We add some things on top of it, and then we get this kind of fully baked experience atop Tanzu. Things like management cluster and lifecycle management in general of clusters. You'll find all of those different pieces inside of Tanzu Framework. You'll also find our API definitions, general purpose machinery, and just things that are kind of, again, at the core of everything that Tanzu builds out. So for not just community users, but paid users, who I already heard there's some in this chat or in the session that are, TKG users, Tanzu Framework builds our product. It also builds our community edition, right? It's kind of like a layered cake. So I wouldn't say, my caution is you don't have to worry too much about like, oh, do I need to file an issue in Tanzu Framework or Tanzu Community Edition? We're here to help you out. If you hit issues in Tanzu Community Edition, you're more than welcome to file an issue. We'll make sure it gets to the right place. But if you're a tinkerer and you want to kind of check out some of the things that Tanzu Framework can offer you, there is a separate repo. Someone can put the link to this in chat as well, Tanzu Framework. And this is going to have a lot of the tooling. Here's actually a great description: API machinery, CLI machinery, and some of the package stuff that we use to generate and create Tanzu Community Edition. So again, framework, TCE sits on top of framework, and then that's essentially what you're downloading under the guise, if you will, or banner of Tanzu Community Edition. Hope that helps give a little bit of context.
It definitely does. We definitely appreciate you going over that with us. Thank you, Josh. And thank you everyone for coming. We're gonna have another one of these meetings next week. We'll see about the time, just because we know that KubeCon is happening, and also we have overlap with CAPI. So stay tuned. We'll get you all the updates that you need. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Take care, y'all. Bye.